All right, right now here on Inside Arkansas Live, we have a very special guest joining us. He's a man that knows all about college football and the national landscape. And with a few weeks left of the college football landscape, it's pretty crazy. So let's talk about that, specifically about the state of the Razorbacks. It is Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports. And Brandon, it's been a while, man. Appreciate you joining us. How you doing?
Hey, no problem. Doing very well. I can't believe we're almost done with the regular season.
I know, and it still feels like there's so much uncertainty still
Mhm.
going on. Hard to figure out, but it makes a lot of fun. But I know that for at least here in Arkansas, you were able to, I guess maybe a week or so ago, talk about on 24/7 Sports how things were leaning towards Sam Pittman coming back next season. And you kind of had a spark earlier this week where from Razorback fans going on the next round live and talking about the current status, which maybe made some Razorback fans feel a certain type of way. But you clarified later and said you're still leaning towards and believing that Sam Pittman will return next year. So just kind of your overall thoughts and feelings on that state of Pittman here at Arkansas, the future, the football program, all of that involved.
Yeah, I believe he'll be the coach next year, unless, I think everybody's obvious if they lose to Louisiana Tech and then lose to Missouri. I think if he makes a bowl game, he's going to be fine. They're not going to make a change there. Having said that, Saturday, Sunday, I was getting messages from folks that, there's like kind of an effort among some money folks, not big ones, I'll say that, to maybe present like a plan, an idea that could lead to a transition. So I wasn't expecting it. I do a show every Monday morning called The Middle Eight, and my co-host Ryan Brown asked me about Arkansas unexpectedly. I was not expecting a question about it, and so I kind of froze up, honestly, because I was like, I just heard some things from some people. So I said, it's unpredictable because I've covered enough SEC teams as a local beat writer, Mississippi State, Auburn, Arkansas, even way back that when people with money start getting motivated, if they can get other people on their side, then things can happen. Well, so I was hearing those early things there, and I'm like, okay. But after talking to more people, after I said it on the show, because it sparked, all these people online going, oh, he knows something's going to happen, and so I started getting other calls from people and finding out if these people have power or sway and all this stuff, and they don't really. And it's just not going to happen. I'll just say that right now, as we talk here and record this, as of this moment, things can always change, but as of this moment, nothing's going to happen. Sam Pittman will be the head coach at Arkansas 2025 if they beat Louisiana Tech and or Missouri. They get to a bowl game. I know a lot of Arkansas fans, especially, I wouldn't say vocal minority, but I'll just say a lot of people on social media, the internet. Yeah, the thing is, people who you rarely speak online when you're happy about something. You're usually coaxed to say something when you're pissed off or upset or you're sick of something. And so a lot of the venom has been online for Sam Pittman. And I'll say this personally, my belief, and also from talking to folks, is that Arkansas is in a state right now where they need some consistency, some stability there. And if you are to make a change and fire Sam Pittman, and then you go, we got to start all anew, and you bring someone in, I think too many people out there have fallen in love with the idea that there are a dime a dozen Kurt Cignettis and Deion Sanders out there. They're not. Kurt Cignetti is winning with players he had at James Madison, and he's doing so against one of the worst schedules in America. I think they got a shot this week against Ohio State, their biggest game of the year. But people are going to go, oh, if they lose by 2 touchdowns, well, that's not all that great at Indiana. We were served rotten apples there. And at Colorado, it took him 2 years to turn it around with, by the way, players who followed him that are generational guys, including his own son, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter, who's doing things we have never seen before in college football. So I don't believe that the cure for Arkansas is to make a change right now. I think it's to keep some stability. Bring Sam Pittman back. Bring Bobby Petrino back. As you've seen in the past, Petrino's offenses get a lot better to year 2 and year 3. And then defensively, I think they're going to be better. They have to be better, especially on the back end. And I'm still a huge believer in Travis Williams at DC. You know, other than Dan Enos, Pittman has made like every right hire since he's been there. And then when things go wrong, obviously you look to the head coach. But what I'm saying is this: who out there among OCs and DCs do you think that the new coach would bring in? You go, well, they're upgrades overnight. You know, a head coach obviously controls the program. They control the recruiting aspect of it. I also believe that things aren't really all that bad recruiting wise for Arkansas. I also believe they're probably going to do pretty good in the portal this year. NIL situation in Arkansas has improved a lot, I've been told, this past fall. I reported that a week or two ago in my initial update for CBS Sports. So they're in actually a pretty good spot at Arkansas. But the problem is, a lot of people just look around and go, well, you can have immediate success now with the portal and a new coach. But here's the issue. If there was a true belief in that, Florida would have made a change. They would have fired Billy Napier. And the other thing, the thing that hovers over everybody, is revenue sharing. We've been playing with monopoly money for 20-something years. It ain't monopoly money anymore. We woke up in the middle of the night and they pulled out their monopoly boards and realized that was real cash. And they went, oh, shit. What are we going to do? I got to spend $20.5 million, take it out of my budget every year now. And then you're also asking me, hey, maybe we should fire our football coach and pay him a $19 million or $12 million buyout, plus go hire a new staff, and then also pay the buyouts, by the way, of the assistant coaches that are over $1 million, $3 million, something like that. It just, and for a lot of reasons, when you check the boxes, getting rid of Sam Pittman, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And I know everybody could argue, and I listen, I'm the type of guy, when I hear arguments, I listen to them, and everybody's got points on all this. But right now, man, you just can't do it with a bowl-eligible Arkansas team.
Well, and to that point, I want to get your thoughts on this. I have felt like, because I agree with you on every point, and I have felt like this year especially, and maybe just over the past year or two, maybe Razorback fans in general who do want Sam Pittman fired or want to move on, it's kind of been one of two things. One, the lackadaisical performances at home for the most part over the past two seasons. And I also believe teams like an Ole Miss, teams like a Missouri, teams that Arkansas fans feel like they're on the same playing field as, having pretty high level success, 11-win seasons. I think those coupled together is, if you look at the grand scheme, I mean, there's a chance that Sam Pittman goes 7-5 this year, 4-4 in SEC play, which is, all things considered, from a year ago, is really good.
Yeah.
But I think those two factors have maybe been what's really turned a lot of Razorback fans off of Sam Pittman a little quicker than what normally coaches would be.
Yeah, I can understand that. Plus, he is in his fifth year. And you don't want to hear coaches talk about rebuilding and all that. And let's be honest, if we're actually looking at it, they were rebuilding this year. They had a new quarterback, had a new OC, had to figure some things out there. And they're going to have to replace some guys, especially at receiver next year. But you got your quarterback coming back. Defensively, they should be better. But yeah, I think comparing Arkansas to what Ole Miss is doing is a little bit unfair because of the situation kind of Kiffin inherited there was actually much better. And then also he's been able to build on that and build on that. And it's been dynamic. And the thing there is he's calling the plays. He hasn't had to have a change at OC. And that's his thing. Whereas at Arkansas, you've got a guy who doesn't call the plays. He's leading the organization. He's got to make changes. And Sam Pittman's biggest mistake, it was hiring Dan Enos. I mean, that was the dumbest mistake he's made. But every other hire he's made, I would argue, have been top tier online with anybody else in the SEC. I mean, John, you've heard me talk about how Arkansas would freak out and not maybe realize it for another year or two, how much they would miss Barry Odom and Kendall Briles when they left, because they were very important to the success that Arkansas had under KJ Jefferson. And I think you're seeing it now with KJ Jefferson sitting on the freaking bench at UCF this year. But Arkansas went out and hired Bobby freaking Petrino, and they got Travis Williams, who's going to be a head coach in the next 3 years. I guarantee it. And those guys, and it's just not me seeing this with my eyes, it's guys in the industry I talk to every day who have no reason to lie to me because we're off the record talking about guys. I mean, I could tell you who a good coach is and who a bad coach is just by talking to their peers, because these guys talk shit about each other behind their backs all the time, and they're willing to do it because they know they're not on the record. And those two guys, Bobby Petrino and Travis Williams, very damn well respected in the SEC and elsewhere. Anyway, yeah, it's just it's a difficult spot. I don't like seeing Arkansas just be a 6-6 team. And I hate to say it. It's just in the new SEC, the days of like a Houston Nutt being able to get to the SEC West, win the SEC West and go to the SEC championship. I mean, those days are gone. They're long gone. And the closest Arkansas was going to be able to get to that was when Petrino was a head coach at the very start of Saban building his dynasty. He was able to hit a couple of times. And there's no telling where that would have went if Petrino had stayed and nothing went wrong off the field. But I think there would have been diminishing returns. Not as drastic as they were after he was fired and then Bielema came in. But there would have been diminishing returns. And I still think in a lot of ways, Arkansas is still freaking trying to heal from that, because you had all that happen right when Alabama was making its uptick and all the other SEC programs started having more success and investing in their programs. Meanwhile, Arkansas was down on the mat trying to get itself up. And then there was some weird hires. But also it's just about fit sometimes. I think Bielema is a great coach. He's killing it at Illinois. He killed it at Wisconsin. Look at what Wisconsin is right now. They're not very good. And he's a Big Ten coach. That's what he was built for. He wasn't built to be an SEC coach. But for Arkansas right now, you give Sam Pittman another year. And if it doesn't work out next year, go ahead and make your move. I think, Pittman came in and took this job with the idea of, I'm coming in to make it better, so when I leave, it's in a better spot. I don't think he necessarily came in here to say, I'm going to win a championship. I'm going to win a national championship. I'm going to win an SEC championship. I think he realized what he was inheriting and what he needed to do. And the very fact that, it's not as bad as the Chad Morris era right now, but that's what he took over. And his biggest sin, other than hiring Dan Enos, was that he had that success early in his tenure in the first 3 years. And then now it's like, oh shit, 6-6 after a losing season with a new quarterback. Oh, this sucks. We should get rid of him. No, it's just, if that was the case, a lot more schools will be making some decisions and firing coaches this year. I mean, as we tape this, every single job opening at head coach right now in college football is a group of 5 team. No one on the power levels made a change yet. And we got 3 weeks remaining in the regular season. That's unheard of.
Yeah, no, it's almost going to be weird that there's a chance that every SEC school keeps their same coach from one year to the next, especially now having 16 teams. That's a very good possibility. But you mentioned Arkansas, and the early success, I think, was one of the, as weird as it is, the curses that Sam Pittman had, going from 9 wins and the 7 wins and the 4 wins. That's not exactly going the right direction, but here he is potentially getting 8 wins if he wins out, which could happen. So for my question to you, knowing Sam Pittman and assuming that he's coming back and assuming he's keeping the coordinators, assuming all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, have we seen the best of Sam Pittman? Was that 9-4 year? Was that the best Sam Pittman that you'll ever get? Is there a possibility that he can get to that level, or to a level of, not saying get into the college football playoff, but at least maybe in the final 3 weeks being in the conversation as possibly being a dark horse?
They can be a 9-win team. Yeah, definitely. Schedule and breaks have a lot to do with that. Like I mentioned Indiana, if Arkansas had their schedule, we're having a different conversation about Arkansas today. I'll be quite honest with you. I think a lot of SEC teams would be like that. But then the problem is, you look at next year's schedule. I just glanced at it the other day. Holy crap. It's difficult. Brutal. It's harder than this year. But I think that it's almost like a perfect storm for Arkansas fans who wanted Pittman gone to fuel their fire. Because I think the big thing, as you just mentioned, is that you're not just losing at home, you're losing big. You're getting your ass kicked. But the other part of that is that those are top 10 freaking teams. I mean, they're top 10 teams. The other thing is, I think a lot of people who are sunshine pup will go, well, if everybody doesn't like Sam Pittman, why are people showing up to the games? Well, the people are showing up to the games because they're top 10 opponents and it's Texas. So, of course, you're going to show up to the game to watch that. Also, earlier in the year, you had a taste of, hey, we could do this. We can beat a top 10 team. We've done it. We just did it. So there's that hope still. And the fact of the matter is that Arkansas just isn't like a great team. They're a good team this year. And that's fine, especially one that's in transition. But no one wants to be in transition in year 5. But the problem is every coach, every 3 or so years, has to rebuild their program. And Pittman's just happens to be in year 5. Go look at Oklahoma State. I know they win 10 games almost every year, but there's been a couple of years under Mike Gundy where it's just like, what the hell happened there? And then the next year they jet back up. It's difficult spot, man. It very much is. But maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I caution just wanting to make a change for the sake of a change. I really do. And I think that's where a lot of Arkansas fans are right now.
Well, last one before we let you get out of here, because I know it's kind of diving into the psyche of Sam Pittman, but I look at videos of him being in the coach in 2021, and then the press conferences and post games, drinking old cold beer, being that guy, laughing, having a good time. And now I know he's got a hip injury, and it's going to get replaced, I guess, here in the offseason. But just seems like he's lost a lot of his happiness. And maybe there's a lot of coaches like that, but that was kind of where maybe I was leaning towards he's going to hang it up because he just doesn't seem to be having fun anymore. Do you think that that's got a lot more to do with the pain that he's in, or is there maybe something to it where he's not having as much fun as he did?
I think it's two things. I do think the hip and his ankle and all that if you ever been in chronic pain, it affects your freaking mood and the way you perform your job. I dealt with it for 2 years myself when I was a local beat reporter covering Auburn. Won't get to the details, but holy crap. Like I was just an ass to everybody. But I also think it's that pain he's dealing with. I also think it's just the fan base just being so negative all the time. And they've got good reasons to be negative from time to time, but it's like day to day, every single day, and it's just coming after them. And I remember when Arkansas beat Tennessee this year, I saw some fans like going, oh man, now we're going to keep Pittman. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, I went and talked to Hunter Yurachek on the field after the game. He's like, people need to give him credit. He's a good coach. And I can't tell you how many messages and things and comments I got from people going, oh man, what is he talking about? It's like, you just beat the number 4 team in the nation. Just enjoy it. Even if you don't think you're that good or whatever. But I think it's that. And the reason why I say it's the pain and that is because Pittman's brought it up a few times the last couple of years about rallying the state around. We got to get back to embracing the hog and all this stuff. I think it's gotten to him. And the few times I've talked to him, in person in his office and stuff, he's mentioned that about how I got to figure out a way to get everybody rallied around. But I also think that maybe he has been a bit worn down from the hip thing and just the criticism, and he hasn't been able to quite attack it the way he wants to. And maybe that naturally will just change this spring when he's healed up and everything. But I'll also tell you that, I know I'm just rambling, but Pittman has never steered me wrong. Like, he has told me when he doesn't think they're going to be good and when they're going to be good and everything. And back in the spring, he told me, we're going to be a pretty good team. We're going to sneak up on someone this year. I really like this team. Our offense is going to be pretty great. And for the most part, that's kind of been the case. They've had so many 600-yard games. They've had the chances. It's just when you're new with a lot of stuff, you can't quite break through at times. That Oklahoma State game sticks out in my head every day when I talk about Arkansas. And that's the problem. But also, you just can't get blown out at home. But anyway, I'm interested to hear if Sam still wants to sit down with me. I don't know after this week, because but like next spring, what he's telling me, how he feels about his team. But yeah. I know he feels good about the guys he's got around him and those coaches. It's just, It's like a little itch you can't quite scratch.
Yeah, it's like I put it as Razorback fans are just exhausted from
Oh yeah,
game to game, not knowing what team is going to be there. You got the team that beats Tennessee, and then you got a team that gets blown out to Ole Miss. You got a team that goes out on the road and beats Auburn, beats Mississippi State, but then you got a team that has a bye week, and you show up in a night game against LSU looking not even there. So it's just exhausting to try to even.
yeah. I
figure
mean,
out the
listen,
team.
on Saturdays if I'm not traveling, there's been a couple weekends this year. I have my friends in the neighborhood. We come in the backyard. I put a projector up and we watch games and everything. And we were watching the Oklahoma State game, and we watched I can't remember what the other game earlier this year. And a couple of my friends were throwing stuff after the Oklahoma State game, like, well, it's just for Arkansas. It's just always like, it's just the way you lose sometimes. I guess frustrating because you're right there, and then like all of a sudden, like it gives you hope, and then you get blown out like a week or two later. It's not just a roller coaster of emotions; it's the extreme highs and lows.
Yeah, because I mean, if I wouldn't be surprised at all if Arkansas didn't play well this weekend against Louisiana Tech, but then if they go out and beat Missouri, it's like okay, just whatever.
By the way, Louisiana Tech's got the number 12 total defense, very good against the run. Arkansas is a 3-touchdown favorite. I think Tech's going to cover. Arkansas is still going to win by a healthy margin, but Tech has only played one game not decided by one possession, and that was against NC State on the road, and they only lost by 10. So they got a bad record, but they're actually pretty good. They just haven't been able to like kind of break through. They finally did last week against Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky's really good. But so everybody just, all right, I'm going to tell it right now. I'm warning everybody. All right. Everybody's going, all right, this is a get right game. We're going to get bowl eligibility. We should blow them out. And then people are going to be pissed off and they only win by 14 or 10 or something like that. Like Tech's got a legitimate defense and program. So just keep that in mind. I'm just telling you. I would say the same thing if they were playing LSU this week, or if they're playing, Auburn, or even like maybe even a Georgia, because of Georgia being so inconsistent offensively themselves.
Doesn't matter, Brandon. They're going to be pissed no matter what. So that's just what I've got it up to.
I know it sounds like I'm just being a sunshine pumper, but
No.
I'm just trying to be the real. Like I'm trying to give like the reality of the situation of what this exactly is.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to swallow. I know that.
Yeah. Well, either way, it'll be an interesting next few weeks for Arkansas and seeing how they finish out this season. But it's Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports. You can check him out on Twitter or X at @bmarcello. But Brandon, hey man, it's always good to catch up with you. Good talking with you, and I'm sure we'll be talking more as soon as the season comes to an end and seeing the current state of college football. It's going to be great. But appreciate you joining us.
All right. Good to see you, John.